What is up, dickheads? We're reading the fucking New Frontier. I could have said a worse word.
I guess this show is going to be a harsh language show.
My book one.
Awesome.
Everyone here read the New Frontier, and we're here to talk about it because it's like the best DC comic of all time. Is everybody agree?
Fair enough. Yeah. I guess
Yep.
this is the first episode of Book Club, a series where we promote 4 different comic books, and then you guys all vote on our Instagram at a hero story what book you want us to read. New Frontier 1, which was Tyler's book, and now we are all going to talk about because we all read it. Yeah.
So
where do we begin?
If I could start, I don't know. When I just said that I think it's the best DC comic of all time, and for a long time, for me, that was Kingdom Come. And then I reread this around Christmas, and I have to say that I think this is better. I think it's potentially like the best comic from the main 2 ever. I think that's very fair to say.
Oh, so you say this is better than anything Marvel's put out?
Maybe, probably.
I think that's an interesting analysis, and I think that's a fair one to make. I mean, this is an all-time great book that, I mean, there's just so many great, like, it's not just like it has 1 or 2 great scenes. I mean, every page about this is just so great, and, you know, it's one of those things that you can go in with such high expectations and still be in love with it. I mean, this is my first read of the book. I had never read it.
How long were you planning
I
to
went
read
in
it
with the
for?
highest of high expectations, and they were met and exceeded.
How long have you been planning to read it?
I've been planning to read this for like since I've seen the animated movie, which was like in 2014,
I remember I saw the
2015
animated
maybe.
movie.
I saw the animated movie,
out.
and I didn't love the animated movie. I don't know.
never seen
I
the
just had
animated
no
movie.
connection to it, but I'd been meaning to read the book, but I just never had, I don't know, I guess the motive to go after it. But I finally read it, and yeah, it's amazing. It's great.
Yeah, I'm the same way where I've never read it before, but I've seen the animated movie. I thought it was good, not great, but this book makes me want to rewatch the animated movie.
Same.
Yeah, I did go back and
for
rewatch it recently as well. It's fine. It's not as good. Obviously, it's a lot shorter, but it's like to the point. And the art style based on Darwin Cooke's art is just, it's amazing. It's like magnificent.
I guess
which proves that if you're gonna do an animated movie based on like a specialty book, you should.
They used to do that a
the
lot
style.
too.
Do the art style, yeah.
I guess before we sort of continue, what is this book about, Tyler, since you picked it?
Okay, so New Frontier explores what the DC universe would have looked like in the 1950s. So we apply all the Cold War era kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Unease of America. There's racism in the South, everything that's shitty about America in the 50s, plus the DC superheroes we love.
So for those of you listening, it's the same as America now.
Today, yeah, it's so.
Except Superman wears his trunks up to here, which is kind of
and he's got yellow.
Yeah, I like that.
Instead of black.
Yeah, it's an origin story for the most part of the DC universe. Flash is
it's like the Silver
Superman.
Age. It's like the Silver Age kind of origin story. It's like the love letter to the end of the Golden Age, beginning of the Silver Age.
Yeah, so Barry Allen's a hero, Superman and Wonder Woman are heroes, but like Aquaman and Batman are both myths, if anything. Martian Manhunter's not a hero. Hal Jordan's not a hero.
Yeah, like I think if you're gonna follow it as like the story of a character, it's probably, I'd say the main character is probably Hal Jordan. He's the one we follow the most. Like he's the one with the longest journey.
Either him or Martian Manhunter.
Oh yeah, him or John Jones.
Yeah, I forgot how early Hal is introduced.
Yeah,
I remember
he's
saying,
introduced
isn't he
immediately.
introduced like halfway through, but like straight after the losers segment, he's introduced. I was
What does
like,
everybody
fuck,
think
he
about that
is the main
loser segment?
character. Yes,
I think
that was the one part I didn't really like.
I was gonna say I think it's a bit of a tough
it drags, but I think it's cool. I mean, it's cool only to me because it's World War II dudes fighting dinosaurs. It's like two things that childhood me was obsessed with.
And I think it's very well written. And it obviously starts the story well because it foreshadows what's to come. Like it starts in this place, it ends in this place. But I think it's probably the toughest part of the book, like in terms of
It's also a
getting
tough
into it.
start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like
it
it's
starts
at
pretty
the
good.
beginning.
Yeah, it's a little hard to get past it. Not hard, but it's
he
a
do
bit of a
blow
drag,
up that
but-
T-Rex though.
Yeah,
grenades
because
in his hands.
you're basically reading a book about soldiers, which is it's good, but you're reading superhero books, or kind of waiting for that until eventually
yeah,
you meet a
it's like the
pilot
cover-
named Hal Jordan.
Yeah, the cover is like, you know, all the superheroes, and then you start and it's about Sergeant Rock, and you're like, okay, well, yeah. But
For, like, the
it picks
first
up obviously, and a
70
lot of the
pages.
characters, I think a lot of the characters, like the 50s versions, the Darwin Cooke versions of these characters are some of the best ever.
Best, absolutely.
Yeah.
What I said when I was reading this book, and I made quite a number of posts about it.
Mamma mia.
I said, Mamma mia, that's a spicy a book. No, but it made me feel almost kind of like nostalgia for something that I really don't have nostalgia for, and that's the power of this book, I think.
Oh yeah,
I don't read 60s comics. I didn't grow up in the 60s, but for some reason reading this book, I just felt like a childhood type nostalgia of like, these are my characters, and like that's how I got to imagine like Jeff Johns and Dan DiDio felt like when they were resurrecting kind of the 60s era characters, like they were thinking on like this type of book, like
before one got fired and one got canceled.
Yeah, but even then, like Hal Jordan was a villain and Barry Allen was dead before they came around.
But I feel, it made me feel like a sense of like nostalgia, and it made me honestly want to read Silver Age, which is the weirdest thing because I don't care.
That's the twist. It's the Darwin Cooke like art style, which is like kind of retro and old school, but also the dialogue boxes are not big at all. Like they're quite small.
Yeah.
So you go, oh, this looks good, and then you'd actually go back to that era of comics, and then you'd be like, fuck this.
Yeah, it's got like I think the book has like a very interesting juxtaposition. Like the art is very like not hokey, but it's very fun and it's very lighthearted. It's exactly what you think of when you think of like the Silver Age of characters. But then the writing, it's very like down to earth. It gets dark as fuck at points. It's like it doesn't pull punches, and I think it's very responsible in the way that it shows the America in the 50s. Like it doesn't like I don't even know, pussyfoot around things. It doesn't. It'll show what it needs to show.
Oh yeah, there's blood, there's gore, there's sexual references, there's alcohol, there's a lot of swears at times. There's racism,
there's hate crimes. It's a lot of tough stuff to read, but it's like it's kind of like you get to the dark parts because it's supposed to lead you somewhere more hopeful.
It's because like this is like the HBO like mini series of comic books, like this massive kind of all-in-one thing. Like this isn't your usual TV show kind of comic book. That's what it is. Like something very, very
totally
special.
and it feels like a complete story, and it's something that you don't get very
clearly never like you were never intended to read. Oh, I'll just read the Sergeant Rock loses chapter and like issue by issue. It was like released what was it released in like 3 parts, like
I think so.
Or something.
I think
it was
so.
clearly
like 3
meant
big
to be
issues.
read as like one big thing though, like start.
I think we should get more stories like this. I think there ought to be more stories, not even just let's say characters in the 50s, but if a writer has an idea for like a new way to tell these classic characters, then I think they should be allowed to do it because it's like no harm.
And that's what I was talking about with Life Story. That despite not really enjoying Spider-Man Life Story, the idea of it is amazing to age a character out like that. Like I was talking to Drew Dennis about this. Like Jay Garrick, could you imagine just watching his life unfold from like the 40s to his death?
Oh, like a 30-year-old Jay Garrick getting the powers.
Yeah, and then like how he ages and evolves and like what his life becomes as he's older, like outliving all your friends and stuff. That's cool. Like period pieces like that are so cool.
Life Story Jay Garrick would be cool.
Even Life Story, I think it was meant to be the entire Marvel universe, but then Marvel was like, that's a bit high.
Broad.
Yeah, that's very broad. You're gonna talk about every character, and so he had to specify it to Spider-Man. But I think there's a story that you can tell about just an entire universe of characters at once. I think that's really cool.
But that's what the New Frontier is. It's
exactly, and that's what I think. That's why I think this book is so special. Is because
Tyler,
you're allowed
I agreed
to
with you so hard that I said "fucking oath" in the most Australian voice like 3 minutes ago.
That's awesome.
Also, that's the power of this book. It's creating harmony among us that we've all agreed right now.
I think Tyler said it's like if Watchmen was actually in the DC universe.
I said it. I didn't actually. I took that from a YouTube account called Comic Pop, but they said it's like if you had the themes and the storytelling techniques of Watchmen, but you told them about the DC characters,
which was the original time for Watchmen.
The Charleston characters, but totally. Yeah. I think it's just like it's such an amazing book, and I love
I gotta
the journey.
say something that kind of caught me off guard here was the way that it told kind of like a political story without you even feeling it. So like, you know, using like the communist hunt, but changing it for like a superhero hunt, you know, like Barry Allen being hunted down. I thought that was super cool. And I thought that was like a really interesting idea for a story.
Yeah.
And the way they were able to do that, I mean, that is a very political issue, like for the 50s, but like when I was reading it, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was like, wow, the superhero hunt, like that's kind of crazy. Like, they were just hunted down for being heroes.
It came out in 7 issues, by the way, I just checked. And then there's a special, which isn't actually included in that trade, but it tells the story of the Batman Superman fight that they had.
Oh no, that's
it's in the back.
Oh, is it? I guess I didn't.
It's behind the annotations.
Oh shit! All right. Well, when I get back home, I gotta read it.
Annotations.
Do you have the Dark Label one? Because that's the one.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, there is the Batman.
You know what I think it is, and I think it's what people confuse a lot. They immediately go, if politics or social issues are addressed in a comic book, it's immediately forced and it's immediately like on the nose. But it's not. Bad writing makes it on the nose. If something is written well and is written subtle, and it doesn't even have to be subtle, it can be overt, but if it's written well, you don't think about it. This is a book that's that fucking well that you're like...
The scene with John Henry, I mean, that's clearly not subtle, but
it's not at all.
That was right on the
it's not meant to be subtle, you know.
And it doesn't pull any punches. Yeah,
it's supposed to be very jarring. It's supposed to be very upsetting to read.
That was
it's also like if you
punch, I was like, oh my god! Like,
but it's also like if you read that and you go, oh my god, they're putting this in a comic book. You're part of the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
You are the problem.
Yeah.
It's just, it's that part. Yeah, definitely. I love the entire, you can tell that Darwin Cooke, and it's such a shame that he passed away. It's because he had so many just genius ideas, and you can tell, and I know that a lot of writers write characters that are larger than life. And obviously when a writer writes a character, they can't live up to that person. But Darwin Cooke, through the way he writes these characters and wrote like this hokey optimism of the 1950s heroes, like you could just tell he was pouring everything he had into it, and it's beautiful, you know. And
he's one of the most auteur like comic book writers in history,
especially with his art as well. Like he can
and he's one
both.
That hasn't, like, he's one that also didn't then ruin like his legacy like in some way, like he literally
and it's incredible that this is up there with a number of incredible things he wrote and drew, like fucking Batman Ego is incredible.
I bought that like after finishing this. I bought it immediately. I'm like, all right, I need to read it.
How is it? I haven't read it yet. Yeah,
it's incredible. It's amazing. Batman Ego is fucking awesome.
They have a new trade, Hunter. It's Batman Ego and Other Tales. It's got some other like
I think it has a Catwoman story.
Yes,
that's
big
awesome.
score and all that.
How much did you pay, JD?
Catwoman.
It was only $18 on Amazon. It was cheap.
God, that means 80 Canadian, I think.
It's like a new trade.
One thing that I wanted to point out with the story is it's very much about the people rather than the mask. Like it's very much about Hal Jordan, not Green Lantern.
Yeah, well, it's his. Yeah, and a lot of that is I like the way you can say that. Actually, I think there's half of the characters that are main characters, I think,
aren't
origins. Yeah, aren't heroes, like Martian Manhunter, Hal Jordan.
And that's what I was going to bring up. Is there's this one page near the end where I guess the team all get together and they all walk out together, like most superhero comics do after the teams assemble and they're all suited up. But in here, most of these people are just regular everyday people. Like you see the Flash, you see Green Arrow, but that's about it.
And that's part of the message, you know. Like at the end, Superman gets up and he screams about unity and that everyone needs to be united because they have a common threat. Like that's the power of the book, is that it is everyone together. It's all the humans that can't do much, and it's all the heroes that can do way more. And it's
exactly,
it's so good, and it just leaves you with a good feeling, you know.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. That's one of my favorite things about the book, is that there's not like a clear like villain presence, I guess. Like, you know, you're not like getting panels of the villain and like their method, and like it's just the idea of like, hey, this is a common cause that we all have to band together against. That makes it so great.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it really does feel like a complete story, and it even feels like
it is. Yeah,
it even feels like it could be a jumping off point. Like when you finish the book, and it teases that, it teases Starro at the end, the classic Justice League cover.
Oh, that was so good. That was so good.
It's incredible, and it just feels like such. That's what I mean. Why you can just tell that he put his heart and his soul into it. It's such a massive love letter to DC Comics, in a way that I don't think we've ever gotten before,
or probably ever will. Honestly,
yeah.
It's like I think it's weird to say. I think New Frontier is like the perfect storm of every like element ever, like writing, art, message, social issues, like just as a book. Like it is I think. God damn, I think it was like 3 years ago or something. It was literally the top of like my favorite comic book list ever. And I was like, if I was ever to be like alone with one book, it'd be this, because it's just so much content, like positive or negative. Like it makes you feel so many different ways. And it's also just like, it's like perfect.
And it's so good.
It like when I read it, or like even when I just go back to it, it reminds me of like, it's going to be a silly comparison, but it does remind me of like a Halloween for me, where I'm like, every part of this just is so important to me. Like I don't give a shit if the start of the book is the slowest part of it. I could read just that part and be like, yes, it's just good that this is part of that. Like the knowledge that this is the New Frontier just makes me happy.
There's gonna be someone out there that thinks you mean the holiday.
I thought you meant
this guy really loves Halloween. This guy really loves Halloween.
But not the 2007 one, and not the 2018 one with the same name.
Zombie?
The 1978 one, yes. Rob Zombie's Halloween.
I was about to ask, who's everyone's favorite character from the
Hal
book? Right?
Jordan.
Barry Allen.
Barry Allen, yeah.
It's definitely Barry.
It's like the best. It's like some cameo. He's like the best. It's like the best Barry. Like he's not in it.
I was just about to say, like,
he's just
like
so good.
I'm like one of those Barry Allen fans that I know a lot of people think I don't like him, but I just don't like when he's written poorly. And because I know when he's written like properly, he's such a good character. And this is one of those books that like he's just top tier, S tier Barry Allen. Like that's how you write Barry Allen. That's who the character is. That kind
Imagine
of
a Darwin Cooke Barry Allen, like
heroic. Oh my god, like it's.
I think exactly about that. I think if there's any character that should get like or would have gotten a spinoff from that book, it's definitely Barry. I would love to see his take on just the Flash in general.
It's like the most
even the way they drew Grodd, like I love like the retro feel of like
the Captain Cold part as well.
Yeah,
that's one of the best parts.
The Grant Morrison looking Captain.
Yeah, it's like the glitz and glamour like of the 60s kind of like look. It's so nice. Like
I think that's the best chapter in the book, and it's pretty early on, but I still think that part is fucking amazing.
Like when people talk about a Flash movie, setting it in the 60s would be such a cool concept because like that's what Barry Allen feels like. Like you could play the Ballad of Barry Allen by Jim's Big Ego and kind of look these pages and just have like a oh man, I want every part of it.
JD, you know what this is? Thinking about it, the Barry Allen in this book feels like a story that was told in that life story of the Flash. You know, that single issue, like the 80 page. That's exactly what this is like. 100%. Going through like all the ages of this is exactly what that is.
100%.
What did I think my favorite character in the book was probably Hal, and I would go as far to say that this is maybe my favorite Hal Jordan ever.
Version, I would agree.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, and I love Hal Jordan. He's one of my favorite characters in comics. But I think like the dedication to like not the dedication, but the arc he goes on, and the fact that this is his story, really, he's at the heart of it. I think it's amazing, and I think
like who would have thought?
Yeah, and he's such an unlikely protagonist. You know, he's not the main character of DC in any book, but in this, he just feels like he's the perfect character to take us from like the Silver Age or from the Golden Age to the Silver Age. I think
it's nice to read like a Justice League story that isn't focused on Superman or Batman. For once, it's focused on Hal Jordan, and even then, after that, John Jones. So
this book I think uses Batman perfectly because they use him in little sprinkles here and there.
Yes.
He's considered
he obviously steals the scene when he's intimidating Martian Manhunter with the matches. But
that's one of the best lines in the book.
But like he's felt more than he's seen. And that's the perfect way to do Batman in a Justice League book.
Like, you guys remember in the Justice League animated series when like Aquaman gets injured and everything, but Batman's like not officially on the team; he's just there. and he like comes in and he helps with some shit. I remember seeing that as a kid, and like it was like this, you know, Batman was this entity, but he didn't work with the Justice League. And I remember like that feeling as a kid, like, who is this guy? Like I knew Batman, I knew who Batman was, but that feeling of like, who is this dude?
Got such a like wonderful mystique. Yeah, and Darwin Cooke, he understands Batman very well. I think the scene with Batman, Robin, and Superman, that's another contender for one of the best scenes in the book because they have such an incredible relationship.
Yep.
And it's like, I love the mention of Clark saying that he let Bruce beat him so that like they wouldn't let so that, you know, nobody would force him to go into Metropolis again. Like it's cool, and they're friends, you know, and I like seeing them be friends and be buddies. And they don't ever fight because they hate each other. They fight because Superman wants Batman to still be Batman, you know? And I think that's great. It's so good. And then when Superman meets Robin as well, and Dick is like so happy. It's so good.
It's like you really do know him.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Like I said, but that makes me like want to read. Like that's the most painful part of this book, is like it makes you want to dive into so much more of it. You're like, oh man, now I want to read all those old books, but like, you know, they're not going to live to the standard of this.
And it even makes you want to read, like it makes you like crave more. Even though this is a complete story, you should, or not, you should, at the end of the book, you want like more. Like, you know, you see the Teen Titans at the end, and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could see Darwin Cooke's take on them.
Well, I was wondering that. I mean, it sucks because Darwin Cooke, rest in peace, has passed on. Could you even trust anyone to do like a
no?
Like I wouldn't. I don't think you can trust.
I don't even. I think if you could match the writing, you can never match the art.
Yeah.
The closest person I could think of for art is Francis Manopul.
I was thinking like Doc Shaner.
Hey.
Oh, that's another one.
Yeah, he's another.
But
between those two,
I was just going through it, and I just got to the part where where Faraday says, "Tell me, Flash, how fast are you?" And Barry goes, "Watch my smoke, G-man." Fucking love that so much. It's so good.
Barry is so excellently written in this. Like this. Good. If you just read this, you'd be like, "Wow, Barry's like
the best."
Yeah, he's the best. Even the scene when he goes on TV and he like tells everyone that he's retiring, like that's
he's
great.
Like, "Screw you guys, I quit."
The way they tell the story too, like he shows the picture of Jay Garrick and he pulls out a book and like he's like going through all the emotions just on every TV screen. So panel by panel, you really feel the weight of what he's saying. Like the art takes this book to such a high level. Like the writing on its own is great, but the art just matches that energy, and it takes it so high.
This conversation's making me emotional about this book. Like literally,
it's an incredible book.
I almost forgot how much it meant to me. Like, wow,
it's top 10 for me for sure. Probably top 5.
One of the earliest moments I remember like really affecting me in this book, and it is very early on, is how when the war ends in Korea and Hal's still there and he's forced to kill that other soldier, and then he's like, he can't live with it, you know, and he says something like, you know, I knew that the war was worth my life, but I never thought it was worth the life of others. Like shit like that. And then his journey about learning, you know, to conquer his fears and get over kind of the shit he's done, and then he becomes Green Lantern at the end, and it's perfect, you know. It's perfectly told. It's perfectly drawn. And there's no comic like it.
It can ever, I don't think it can ever happen again. To me, it's like this perfect, like with their use of Batman. Like you can't do that with Batman in an ongoing series because you got to delve into Bruce Wayne far more. But like when it's this, you know, ensemble mini series, you can treat, you know, a character that way. It's like you're just never gonna get stuff like this. It's like. I think it feels like a once in a lifetime kind of book.
Yeah, I don't think
we're ever gonna. I think
we've gotten a lot of things in like the spirit of this. I think a lot of writers obviously have a lot of love for Darwin Cooke and have a lot of respect for his work. And I think that I think it'd be cool to see things like this in the future if they did another kind of tale of a character in a period piece, or they did a Marvel version of this or something. But I don't think it'll ever kind of match what this was.
No,
I was trying to like pin down like, you know, what's my favorite scene, and I think it's impossible to pick your favorite scene because there's just too many good ones. But I gotta say one of my favorite kind of like panel by panel views is the very end with the Kennedy quote, because I think
the New Frontier speech,
just showing everything, right? So you show the white only fountain, right? It starts with that, but it ends with all the heroes like looking into the sun and like moving on, like and going towards Starro, like it makes you
So good.
Yeah, it's like I can't even get the words out, but it's like hitting that new frontier, like it ties everything together.
Yeah,
and
you can use it as like an adjective, can't you? Be like, dude, that was such a new frontier. I read this book the other day, man. It was such a new frontier. It was so good.
I mean, really though, like it's crazy,
and it's all very earned as well. Like the book earns those moments, to build onto the future, like to tease a future that we were never going to get. It earned kind of the hopeful ending it has.
Well, you could even say that the ending is just continuing into the regular DC comics since it's the first appearance of Justice League fighting Jaro. There's Starro, I mean.
Imagine if it was Jaro.
It's Jaro.
Jaro in the Robin suit.
That's why Batman's not there.
This page is so cool. Oh my god.
Yes.
The colors.
The cosmic side of
JD, can you flip to the back of the book and find that Hal Jordan like cover or like pin-up page?
Yeah.
Because I really think it's like the coolest. Tyler, if it's not your favorite thing in the world, you're out of your yes.
Yeah, I love that.
I was yeah.
All the Hal stuff is just it's so good in this.
Yeah. I think this is my favorite image from the book, though. I think this is
I was gonna say that's my favorite.
I saw someone talking about it
them
online,
like running together,
and they were saying like this person was clearly not a fan of like modern Green Lantern stories, like the Jeff Johns run, I would assume, because they said like they don't like the Light Wars. They don't like how it's like everything has to be like this huge scale,
cosmic
like,
event,
Light War, and they were saying like this is the perfect Hal Jordan story because it doesn't rely on any of that.
It's just a dude.
It's not even about Green
Hal
Lantern
himself. Exactly, it's more Hal than it is Green Lantern. And despite the fact that I love all the Jeff Johns stuff, I love the Light Wars, I love Black Knight, all of it. This is just perfect Hal Jordan.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's my favorite. Probably my favorite version of Hal Jordan, because it doesn't even matter that he's Green Lantern. He could have not become Green Lantern at the end of the story, and it still would have paid off. Like that's how well that character is written.
Even then, with the Light War stuff, I feel like Hal Jordan's not usually a focus for those. The Green Lantern Corps are, so it's kind of like
and it's such a big story that like his development, whatever, it all gets lost in that. But when you have something like this,
there.
Yeah, when you have something like this that's like razor sharp, it's like so focused on what it wants. And it does it so well. It's unbeatable.
Definitely. This isn't like this is like such a shit story to start book club
because nothing's gonna top it.
No, because like I love Armor Wars, but it's not that deep. Like it's deep for Tony as a character, but it's not this fucking deep or this impactful.
Thor throws his hammer, guy.
Yeah, you'll be like, oh, that was cool, but like,
I think that's what it will be.
At no point in this have we been like, oh, that was so cool. We're just like, that was fucking inspirational.
Yeah.
Well, I think
even when Hal gets the ring for the first time, he just flies around. It's like, wow.
It's like this book is far beyond cool moments. It's so much more. When something happens, you fucking like feel it in your soul. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so
I love that in the little concept art they did. Like every character looks like individualistic. Like
even though it's the similar stuff.
There's been people online that are like, oh, you can't tell if this is Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent, Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, and like it's true. A lot of time, like you can't tell who it is, but like each one of them here has like a very individual feel.
I just remembered another page that I love that I want to find real quick, but it's the one of Ted Grant Wildcat when he's raising his hands in victory with the roses.
Oh yes,
I like that.
Incredible moment.
Very good.
And then this story, it's obviously not focused on the JSA, but I think the love it has for the Justice Society, it bleeds through every moment they're in. And like it makes me feel for those characters, and I'm not really the biggest fan of them, but it really does make me feel like connected to them in a way that I never did before. Especially that Wildcat
was New Frontier. Was it 2004 or 5? What was it?
I believe it's 2004.
Yeah.
JD, do you think that directly inspired those 2 episodes of
2004.
Smallville?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
With the JSA like being like outlawed and hunted and
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Forgotten and everything. Yeah, it's like very similar.
It started in January 2004 and it ended in where is this? 2000 September of the same year. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
It took a while to get going though. Like he was doing concept art for years before.
Well, I mean, when you draw and write the whole thing, that's like a
Yeah, this is
this
he
is
couldn't have done
magnum
anything.
It
opus,
literally
like,
is like a fucking magnum opus, like piece of work.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's, like, it's the most cinema comic book you'll ever read.
the annotations are great for those who got the Black Label edition, and if you didn't, highly recommend. It's a huge book, like, you know, thickness, but it has annotations for most pages in the back, and you know, some of them are just very basic notes, but some of them are so cool. One of my favorite ones, he talks about page 359, and it's about when Barry's talking about how he's kind of like a small time hero, like he's focusing on the little guy. And it says, Darwin writes, this scene gets to the essence of Barry's character at this point in his life. He has tremendous ability and a deep desire to do something meaningful, but up until now, he's been small time. Superman is towing planets while he chases the Pied Piper around a jewelry store. He's ready to do more and willing to die trying, which kind of represents Barry's whole story of, you know, in the 60s Silver Age underneath Carmine Infantino, he's, you know, kind of doing wacky stuff with the roads. But by the time we get to the 80s, he's sacrificing himself in Crisis. Like, it's such an evolution for Barry's character, and Darwin Cooke nails it on the head.
Yeah, and that's all. I love that. Like, we can say that about this book, but like, he doesn't sacrifice himself in Crisis. He doesn't do any of that.
But you see it all happening.
Exactly,
yeah.
and you can already. You can.
Yeah.
It's
you
not
know
even the
there.
same Barry, but you feel that down the
feel
line
that
that's
he
gonna
would do that.
Yeah, it's that's what's so good about.
Did you read the deleted scene and why it was deleted with Superman and Aquaman?
I read pretty much all the.
It's kind of funny. So he does some like little scripts here of like Superman and Aquaman hanging out on an island together as Superman recovers.
Oh yeah.
Darwin says,
"Oh, is it? That's funny."
Yeah, the end that never was. The original ending was far more cautionary and downbeat. In the epilogue, we were to discover that Superman has been recovering on a remote island after being saved by Aquaman. The two of them were to discuss and reflect on the madness and beauty of the human race. In the end, I did decide it was too low-key and introspective. I also thought it was kind of, well, gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just not the vibe I wanted to hit. That's so strange. And there's just pictures of Superman and Aquaman both shirtless walking on the beach.
I do love the restraint that he had, like, to go,
Yeah.
no, that's not gonna work for this. Like, I want to have this in here, but it would be much better to end the story on the more optimistic kind of side.
Yeah,
because it's like the perfect, you know, you've gone through so much shit and seen so much like going on that to then come out on the other side, it makes you go, oh, maybe there is hope for humanity. Maybe we are.
And I think that's exactly. I think you end the book and then you like go out, look out the window, and you think, think about the world. That's the type of book it is. Yeah,
it's the kind of it makes me feel like Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta live life to the fullest, man.
It's art, man. Like it's one of the most concentrated pieces of art in the comic book medium. You know what I mean? It's completely incredible.
And I think for me and Hunter, we've read thousands of issues. It's hard to find a book that makes you feel that kind of way that can immediately go to your top 10.
Why'd you say it like Tyler and I have read 3 books in our life?
Well, no. But I'm saying
Hunter and I, we've read thousands.
But I'm saying you guys have already read The New Frontier. I'm saying this was both of our first times reading it. I meant in that sense. Like, obviously, you guys have,
for us, fucking real DC fans.
Yeah. I was being a gatekeeper like Hunter. No, but, I was, I meant you guys had already read it. Like, we never read it. This was the first read for us. So, I've read thousands and thousands of issues, and, I've
not like you guys.
All my favorites that are kind of solidified. So for this to be able to jump in like that, like, it's rare that you read a story like that really moves you inside after you've read so many other stories. So this one was really, really special.
Yeah. Yeah,
nice voice,
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Manly stuff.
Man, steak and
cars,
milk, fucking eggs or something.
I guess. What do you guys rate the book? And then we'll
that's a pointless.
It's a 10.
Yeah,
it's a 10
I know
out of 10.
It's a 10. Yeah. And anything else you guys want to say, or should
what if one of us just went like a 7? Like, what the fuck would happen?
Yeah, it was good. Maybe 8.
This is the book that everyone's probably already recommended it to you, but this is the book that you got to get.
Yeah.
The
listen to
Dark
them
edition.
Yeah. If you ever read one comic book before you die, make it this.
I agree. This is the book that's already a warm hug to me. Like, just thinking about it feels like a warm hug. So definitely get into it. And that's the new frontier. I'm glad we covered this as our first one. This was a great.
Oh man, I'm happy.
This is our first
Armor
book
Wars is
club.
not gonna fucking live up to this shit.
Thor God of Thunder. I think for the next book clubs, we'll probably ask beforehand on our Instagram at a hero story for you guys who have read it to ask, like, say anything you want. Really,
yeah, just add kind of.
We'll see on the show. This was our first episode, so we didn't think of that, but we will do it for the next episodes coming out. So vote on our Instagram, which should be up now, hopefully, if you're listening to this, on what book you want to see us cover next, which we should be covering probably like May 1st. Expect the video like first few days of May. We're always going to aim for like the start of each month.
Now, do we finally get the reveal of what Tyler's next book will be?
Yes.
Well, should we reveal our books first? I mean,
do you have new books?
We still got to do our books.
Yeah, mine's still the same.
Superman Secret Identity. Yeah, mine's still the same too. Thor God of Thunder by Jason Aaron.
Yeah.
Harper, yours is Armor Wars.
Same shit.
All right, so I read this book last week, and it immediately jumped as the book that I think we should all read, because it actually gave me not the same feelings as The New Frontier, but it does feel very much like a love letter to DC in the same sense. I don't know if any of you guys have read it before, but it's this Trinity by Matt Wagner, written and drawn by him.
No.
And it's about the first meeting of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
I've never even heard of this book.
Yeah, and so it retells that story. It's their first adventure together. It's them versus Bizarro, I think Cersei and Ra's al Ghul. And it's awesome. It's really fun. It's a great story, and it's very like,
when did this come out?
It's just fun to read. Because it's like, you know how these characters, when they first meet, they obviously butt heads a lot.
Yeah.
They don't stop arguing through this entire book.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
You can tell their respect for each other by the end of it. And it just feels like the jumping off point for DC. Like, it feels like this is where it all starts. And I really enjoyed that about it.
Heard of that?
Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
So this is it.
Yeah, it sounds very much like the Francis Manupul Trinity, because they also fight the same people on that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that was like a reference to this.
Yeah,
because I'm not even sure when this came out. If the deluxe edition
got like the
comes
2011 kind of
art in the back and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Really
so
and I think everyone should read it.
We'll be putting that on our Instagram.
Don't let Tyler get 2 victories in a row.
Yeah.
Let me get
is that how we stack it up? Oh wow, it's like a round robin. Like Tyler's just gonna blitz through while we're still. I'll be like,
what books you want.
We're in week 4.
Week 7, please read Thor.
I do like the idea that like we could be 7 months from now. Tyler's on like his 15th book, and Hunter's still like, God Butcher.
God Butcher's good, guys. God Butcher's good. But yeah, vote by commenting on the Instagram page, and that's it.
Awesome.
Like and subscribe.